One of the biggest issues that we face today, and also in my 5+ years experience in dropshipping, is knowing how to run stealth accounts. And this has been a very sensitive issue for many dropshippers, also those who don't know how to do it, and those who think they know how to do it and don't do it correctly, and then they just end up risking their business. In this video, I have a very, very special interview with Stan from Multilogin, and here we're going to talk about how to create stealth accounts the right way today. Everything that you know about stealth accounts, everything that you tried before in the past is most likely not working out today. And that is exactly what we're going to help you know how to sort out the right way in this podcast. So Stan, thank you for joining us. How are you doing today?
What's up, Liran? I'm feeling fantastic. Thanks very much for inviting me over here.
Great. You're very welcome. As long as we can provide more value to our viewers and help them with this very specific issue that they have been having problems with for so many years. And for those of you who don't know, some use cases that you have for running stealth accounts is like, for example, if you want to have multiple eBay accounts where you want to have multiple stores that are not linked to one another, or if you're purchasing from Amazon and you want to have a few buyer accounts, and for many other reasons. Like, for example, even if you want to have your Facebook Marketplace dropshipping store, and you know that for having a Facebook Marketplace dropshipping store, you need to live in the US, you need to have a US IP, or for other reasons, like you want to dropship from, let's say, Home Depot, and in many countries outside the US, they simply block out their IP addresses, and this is another issue that we can tackle with this. So enough blabbing on. Stan, let me know, what is Multilogin?
Multilogin is essentially a software application, like a desktop application that you install to your Windows or Mac device that manages and creates virtual browser profiles that websites perceive as distinct and real devices. So it's a software application for managing virtual browser identities.
Okay, and for anyone who's not too tech savvy, don't worry, we're going to break it down more in this podcast. But really briefly, where did you get the idea to create this company?
Right, so we've been on the market for over 6 years, and actually the story behind Multilogin is that we also managed a couple of online accounts, and we would outsource this work to our virtual assistants. And it was pain in the you-know-what to like write these big instructions, how to change the proxy, how to clear the cookies, how to change like some browser parameters, and always the virtual assistants would make mistakes and accounts get banned. So at some point, our CTO, Pavel, he came up with a solution to like do this out of the box. We've created a solution for ourselves, and then we offered the solution to affiliate marketers and dropshippers at the time, 6 years ago, and it slowly took traction. People started to get interested in it, and a lot of people started to get a lot of value from the software. And that's how it began. Actually, we tried to solve the same problem our users are solving right now.
So about 6 years ago is when this idea came to play, and that pretty much answers my next question of when this business was actually created. So let's move on. What are the benefits of creating multiple accounts for dropshippers and e-commerce store owners?
Right, so there's actually many benefits. One of the first benefits I would like to talk about is risk diversification purposes. There are many dropshippers who own their own Shopify stores and send traffic from Facebook ads. And many times when you forget to update your tracking information, or for example, there is a bad review from one of the people who didn't like your product, it's very likely that your Facebook ad account will get banned. And if it gets banned, it essentially, like for some people, it means that the main source of traffic is simply non-existent anymore.
Right.
And when you have multiple such Facebook ad accounts for dropshippers, they are able to simply switch to another account and continue running their business. If we talk about dropshipping on existing marketplaces, then the same situation can apply there. Your account can simply get blocked and your business is not working anymore.
Like eBay is a good example for that. Sorry for interrupting, but eBay is a perfect example for that, because as soon as eBay puts down your account, suspends your account for whatever reason, you didn't upload tracking information, you didn't take care of your customers, you didn't care about replying to their cases, or you simply sold products that are prohibited that you're not allowed to resell. So if your eBay account gets banned and you have, let's say, 5 or 10 eBay stores, then they're all going to go down like dominoes. And that's not something that anyone wants for their business. And one of the advantages of stealth accounts, if you're an eBay dropshipper, is that if one account goes down, you can still lean on the rest of them, and then no harm, no foul.
Yeah, absolutely. Like risk diversification. So you never know when it happens. It can happen. So you have to make sure that it actually you are ready for that. Other actually reasons include that you are able to open multiple seller accounts, and as a result you can expand your business. Like the more stores you have, the more money you have. And another reason is also reputation management, where you can actually combat bad reviews. Sometimes actually competitors attack your stores and you have to combat them with better reviews, and you can use multiple accounts to manage that. And another very popular and not very talked use case is actually SEO. You can use multiple accounts or multiple browser unique. You can use multiple unique browser sessions to actually boost your stores to more to appear higher in the search rankings. It's like Amazon or eBay SEO.
Okay,
so these are the most popular use cases.
I never thought about those. Those last two examples are good ones. So those are just some examples, by the way, of why we would want to use multiple stealth accounts. And what would you say the legal aspects are of creating multiple stealth accounts? Because this is another very sensitive issue that many people face, and they want to know, is it legal? Can I even do this?
Yeah, so it's actually a really good question. Yes, so yes, this is perfectly legal. There is no there is no law in any jurisdiction that says you cannot create stealth accounts. You can create stealth accounts. In some websites, they allow creating additional accounts. On some websites, they don't allow. But the only thing here is not the breakage of law. The only thing is that you perhaps not working according to the website's terms of service. If we talk about legal ramifications, then as long as you're using and creating accounts of your friends or relatives and providing real factual information of people and not falsifying like documents or creating accounts of of non-existent people, then you're doing everything correctly, everything fine, as long as it increases revenue for your business and it helps you. Everything is within legal ramifications. You're just using some growth tactics, maybe some growth tactics to increase the revenue of your business. But any business needs, every business has it. Every business has it. Every business utilizes specific loopholes around every corner they get to increase their revenue. So it's totally legal, totally fine. And from my side, I think it's totally moral.
And from my side, a good example of that is if, for example, you're a dropshipper and you already have an eBay store, you want to create another eBay store right now. If you use the same information as your current eBay store, which is your personal information, your name, your address, and everything, your billing information, your phone number, your email address, eBay will connect your two stores really quickly, even if you're on different computers. So, and they don't want you to have, they don't mind if you have multiple stores. Okay, you can have even 10 stores. Or even more, you can have however much you want, but they are all going to be linked and connected together. So when you're creating your second store, you can do so, but by taking someone's information, but not stealing anyone's information, rather asking for permission. Like in my example, my first eBay store is on my personal information, my name and all of my details. And my second eBay store is on my wife's name. Now, granted, it's under the same address. It's not under the same phone numbers. It's not under the same email addresses, and it works. It's been working for me for the last 5 years, and they are not linked together. And this is a good way to do it. So if you guys have connections with family members, friends, just ask for their permission to use their information to create a new eBay store. And if they didn't create one themselves, if they don't need one, then there is your legal right to do so. Of course, all under permissions, and then there is absolutely no problem with it whatsoever. eBay, however, does not allow you to simply Google someone's information and just find random people and try to add them as your personal information. That is not going to work, whether you're using a good stealth account or not.
It's actually very beneficial for you to use an existing account. And if any of your friends or family members have an existing eBay buyer account or Amazon account, then this account already has a lot of trust in it. It has like a lot of behavioral data, which means that Amazon and eBay will less likely suspend this account due to, let's say, any specific activity. So this is actually very beneficial for you as well.
That's right. That's a great tip. So if you guys have access, by the way, there are marketplaces where you can actually buy used eBay accounts that are still working. So one of the ways to do it is, of course, to go to those marketplaces and try to talk with the people, but don't just buy things without, really taking a look. Speak to those buyers, ask to see their screen using TeamViewer or AnyDesk or any of those remote platforms where you can see the other person's desktop. See that he's browsing through his eBay store, see that it's not suspended or anything, and then continue with the purchase process. While it could set you back a few dollars, on the other hand, you're not starting from scratch. You're not starting with 10 limits and then starting your way slowly to build it up from there. So if you have some extra cash, that is a great shortcut and a great tip. So Stan, my next question to you are, after we spoke about the legal aspects, is what are the best practices for using stealth accounts? But we pretty much touched up on this subject in our previous question, guys. So of course, make sure that you are not stealing anyone's information. You are using real people's information, but those who actually gave you permission to do so. This, I would say, is the number one tip for running stealth accounts, because the rest of the stuff, the technical stuff, we're going to get to that soon. So Stan, our next question, is there a chance when I'm using proxies, and for those of you who don't know, we're also going to talk about the definition of that soon, but when we're creating multiple stealth accounts, one of the things that we need are proxies. And is there a chance that I'm going to get a proxy, use it on Multilogin, and get a recycled IP, which means an IP that someone already got in the past, or or even just a low quality IP where computers can see really quickly, can detect really quickly that it's not a real IP, you're not a real person in that specific location. What are the chances of something like that happening?
Liran, you're just amazing with your questions. So really good question.
Thank you.
First of all, an IP address is a parameter that websites can use to identify you. Yes, an IP address is a very important parameter that websites utilize to understand where you're located, and also it is used to uniquely identify you. Now, to answer your question about the risk of getting the same IP address when creating multiple accounts, I need to first briefly speak of different types of IP addresses and different types of proxies, because for each type of proxy, the situation is very different, and websites they utilize different algorithms and methods to understand whether you should be blocked based on the fact that the IP is the same with multiple of your accounts, or if the IP address has been used by some other person for creation of this account. Now, so there are multiple types of public IP addresses and proxies. The first type is data center proxy. Now, the data center proxy means that the IP address belongs to a server. These IP addresses are used to host websites. These IP addresses are used to host databases. Essentially, whenever you connect through a data center proxy or data center IP, websites can see that you essentially have a data center IP. They can see that by checking the internet service provider of that IP address. They can check that.
So in other words, I could go to a proxy website right now, sign up for a proxy, get my own proxy, get my own IP. Guys, for those of you who don't know, a proxy is simply an IP address that's from a different location, not from your location, which means you can create another account and it's not from the same computer, not the same location. So
yeah, proxy essentially changes your IP address, and you can go ahead and even buy a data center proxy and then connect through a new account.
Right.
And the website will see that it's a data center IP address, that it's a data center proxy. Now, this might not necessarily mean that is bad, because there are situations like organizations using VPNs, and they also have an IP address belonging to a data center. So that's not too bad. That's okay. However, in this specific case, a data center IP can be used as a unique identifier, because it is very unlikely that this IP address will belong to somebody else. So if a website sees that you have a data center that if you have a data center IP, it can mean two things. First of all, you are using a corporate network, or you're using a proxy. You're hiding your real IP address.
And in our situation, it's the second. It's the second one, the second option.
It's actually like, from the logic of the website, it doesn't really matter. In this case, the website can block this IP address,
Right.
because the likelihood of this IP address appearing on normal users is very small. Now, if we transition to residential IP addresses, for example, Liran, you're currently on your home network and you have a static IP address.
Right.
Static IP address, it means that your IP address is not changing over time.
It's not moving, it's always the same.
Yes, and if you go ahead to go on eBay and sell, and for some reason eBay blocks your account, then it's very easy to block that static IP address, because this static IP address is an identifier for you. However, the situation is very different for mobile proxies or IPs and dynamic residential IP addresses. The thing is that for mobiles, first of all, we have to understand that there is a limited number of IP addresses in the world. It's not enough. There's not enough IP addresses. There's not enough IP addresses in the world. So what what internet service providers do is that they recycle the same IP addresses, especially for mobile phones. Right now, I am connected to a cell tower. And Liran, if you would be in the same room or in the same location, it is very likely that you will have the same IP address on my phone. You will have the same IP address as my phone.
So two people can have the same IP address and surf at the same time?
Yes, absolutely. This is due to NAT technology that ISPs have developed. So, and this happens, and this is because we don't have enough IP addresses in the world. And how can this be advantageous to us? Now, the thing is that right now, if we go ahead and create an eBay account on a mobile IP address, how incentivized is eBay to ban this IP address? It is not, because if it does, it risks banning other good users as well.
But they still do it. If there's an IP that got banned.
Yes, but they are not incentivized to do it for mobile IPs. They may be incentivized to do it for static data center IPs, but they don't want to do it for mobile IPs.
Okay.
And this is why we actually recommend using mobile IP addresses, mobile proxies. They can be a bit more expensive than normal data center proxies, but they are a really good alternative and a really secure way how you can have different IP addresses and also not get them blocked.
So database IP addresses cannot be multiple. We cannot have duplicate from data centers, but we can get them on mobile proxies, mobile IPs, which at the end of the day, marketplaces like eBay will not ban recycled ones, because they understand that these IPs are duplicated because there are simply not enough IPs, as you just explained.
More or less, absolutely, yes. So maybe they can ban it if you open multiple accounts at the same time. But if there is some specific pause between them, then it is unlikely that they will ban them.
Okay, so as long as you're not doing anything suspicious, not too fishy, absolutely. you should completely stay under the radar there.
Yep. And actually, one of the recommendations we give, if you don't have a budget for mobile proxies, what you can do is you can simply connect your phone to your computer, share that IP address to your computer, open first account, work with it, close it, and then turn off and turn on the airplane mode to recycle the IP address to a new one and open a second profile. And this way, your IP address, every profile will have a unique IP address, and it will be mobile, and it will be residential, it will be high quality, and the likelihood of your accounts getting banned due to bad IP or recycle IP is very low. It's very low.
Okay, so by opening a personal hotspot on my cell phone, and of course, it's worth mentioning that the cell phone should not be connected to your Wi-Fi, right? Because then you're using because then you're getting an IP from your router, which can then be seen by eBay. They know they have this information. So
that's a good.
So your cell phone needs to be connected to the 3G, 4G, 5G cellular network, whatever you guys have. Then connect your computer's Wi-Fi connection to your phone's personal hotspot. And when you do that, you're actually getting a unique, a recycled or unique, you can call it whatever you want, but it's mobile, which means it's much better than doing it on your desktop. But this way, let's say I'm doing it. Let's say I'll do it. I'll do it one way like this. I'll create my first eBay account. Then I'll turn on airplane mode. I'll turn off airplane mode. And let's say the next day I'll create another account by connecting once again my computer to my cell phone. But how could I go back to that first IP address? I won't really be able to. I just need to always use a new IP address every time I connect to one of my stores.
Absolutely. And the reason why websites will not think it's suspicious that you have a unique IP address every time for the same account is because the mobile IPs are already dynamic. They change all the time. Because even when you travel from one location to another, you move to another cell tower, and that cell tower has different IP range. And as a result, it is totally normal behavior that IP addresses change. The only thing that is consistent, but we still preserve a so-called IP information consistency, because the internet service provider will be the same and the city will be also the same.
Before I get to the next question, if you still don't understand what we're talking about, what are proxies? What do they have to do with IP addresses, and what does all that have to do with multi-login? It's all going to connect soon, but it's really important to understand the basics of how these things work before we get down to the technicalities. Understand what technologies exist today that allow platforms, big platforms like eBay and Amazon, and browsers like Google Chrome to detect that we're running multiple accounts under one computer. Let me just rephrase that for those who are not, once again, very tech savvy or that go in depth about this stuff. If I create multiple accounts today on my computer right here, how do big platforms like eBay, Amazon, and Google Chrome, how do they know that we are the same person under the same physical location? What technologies do they have to be able to detect that we are not different profiles from different locations?
These are called browser fingerprints, and I will try to explain what it is. Now, by browser fingerprints, when I talk about browser fingerprints, I mean different various browser parameters. And whenever you go open a browser without even logging into any of the account, the websites such as eBay, Amazon, Google, and Facebook are already able to see a lot of identifiable information about you. We've talked about the first important one, which is your IP address, but there's also other types of information such as your video card, what kind of computer you're running, what kind of programs you have installed, what is your operating system.
They have access to all of this information. So even if I block my IP, even if I buy another IP address, it's not necessarily enough.
And the thing is that this type of information, like browser fingerprints, is not even governed by GDPR. So they can collect this information without even taking consent of the user. For cookies, yes, they have to take consent. Mm-hmm. But all of this information is called kind of like passive information. It is true, it's passive. It's like just execution of code in the browser, and as a result, collection of that information on their own databases. But they have a lot of information. And we call this information browser fingerprints. And the way how they utilize this information to detect multiple accounts, there are two ways how they go about it. The first way is that they use it to identify you. Like, Liran, I see that you have a blue shirt, you have a beard, you have a haircut, the way you have this haircut, and by combining these parameters, I can understand that it's you, Liran.
So if I change my shirt to a red color, you still have the rest of the parameters to know that it's still me.
Absolutely, exactly, yes. So by combining these parameters, it's possible to understand that it's still you if you're not changing these browser fingerprints. The second way how they can understand, if you're running multiple accounts, is by checking for consistency. And for consistency, I mean, like, even if you go ahead and change a proxy to a different location, there is a browser fingerprint called time zone. And if this time zone doesn't correspond to the location of your proxy, then it is possible to conclude that you're hiding something. And as a result, we can block your account. In your situation, Liran, I can see that you have a red shirt, but I know Liran never wears a red shirt. I know this for sure. And so I can say you're fake Liran as a result. Just an analogy.
Mm-hmm. A stealth, a bad quality stealth Liran.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, very interesting. And what does Multilogin do to protect that information from being connected and network with our additional accounts? Once we set up Multilogin, we've got several different browsers. Mm-hmm. We got them all connected to proxies. What does Multilogin do to really save me from the technologies of today to leak out my information and let the marketplaces or wherever I am know who I am?
Good question. So the obvious logical conclusion is that we need to change these fingerprints so the website doesn't detect that is the same person, that you're like the same person. However, if you change too much parameters, then you will become like a purple cow. It is possible to distinguish you from the herd of cows, and it is possible to ask a question, why is it so different? The same analogy with the red shirt. And what Multilogin essentially does is that it provides you with browser profiles that are distinct enough to the website to perceive it as a different profile, and also makes it so that the changes inside these browser profiles are also real, correspond to what normal users do. So it creates browser profiles that are distinct and at the same time also real.
Now, there are two more terms that we haven't talked about, VPS and VM. And how is Multilogin better? First of all, give a quick explanation to what they are. And then I would like you to tell us how Multilogin actually is different from VPS and virtual machines and VMs.
Right, yes. So VM is a virtual machine. VPS is a virtual private server. And this is a computer that you can connect to remotely. And arguably, we can say that it's a different machine. It has a unique IP address. It has a unique sets of parameters. And we know that a lot of people stop using virtual private servers and virtual machines because they're slow and they're detectable, and they come to use Multilogin because it's faster and more secure. However, there are still some people who believe that virtual machines and virtual private servers are better, and I totally understand why. However, for those people who still use virtual private servers and virtual machines, you have to understand that if you go ahead and create a virtual machine or a virtual private server, then websites can understand that you're running this profile or account on a virtual machine or a VPS. There are browser fingerprints that reveal this. One very simple example is number of CPU cores. This is just a number of CPU cores. On normal machine and laptops, it's a minimum of 2 cores per machine. It is impossible to find a machine that has 1 core. It should have at least 2 cores. However, when you launch a virtual private server or a virtual machine, open a browser there, the website can see that you have only 1 core. And that is impossible. This way, a website can see that something is fishy here, and it might make a decision to block you because you're using a virtual private server.
So one of the ways that the VPS or the VM actually gives out your gives out the fact that you're actually using, that you're not who you are and where you are, is because they allocated just 1 core to you, and that's just one example. They allocated just 1 core to you, and and technologies today, eBay, Amazon, and more, they know that no one is using 1 core PCs today.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's way too slow, and
Absolutely.
it just doesn't make any sense. And that's one of the ways that they actually flag your account.
Liran, I would like to even go further and give an example that how do you also connect to these virtual machines or virtual private servers? You use TeamViewer or you use remote desktop connection. And the thing is, websites can pick up and see that you are connecting to websites can actually see that you're using TeamViewer or remote desktop connection by scanning for your ports. And that is not even a theory. There are many articles out there that show how eBay scans for your ports. It's just there. They scan for your ports, and they scan if you have TeamViewer or RDP connection. It is not even questionable. They do it, they scan it, and we can argue that they also block accounts based on this information.
Okay, so we already talked about things that we can. Things that we do to or don't do that end up in us being detected and failing in running these stealth accounts. But is there any chance that our multiple accounts through Multilogin will be detected and linked together? Like if I want to have 5 accounts, is there a chance that my accounts will be linked up together and connected?
So ultimately, if we talk about like browser fingerprints or browser parameters, the likelihood of this happening based on browser fingerprints is very unlikely. Usually the linking of accounts happens due to like accidentally using the same data center proxy, or maybe launching the browser profile on the same IP address. Sometimes when you input information inside that account that actually can link accounts together, this is a possible way how accounts can get linked.
Which is what I mentioned. Like if you guys are using the same phone number or the same email address or between two different accounts or the same ID number, then it's also going to be linked together. Or like you mentioned, if you make regular human mistakes, like I have two servers and I have two multi-login profiles, and instead of adding one proxy to each, I added the same proxy to both of them by mistake. I'm a human. It happens. So,
Yeah,
but just through multi-login and through browser fingerprints, it shouldn't happen.
It shouldn't happen. It's very unlikely, because like we also in Multilogin, we kind of try to really understand how to use browser fingerprints. We have our own research team that is dedicated to understanding browser fingerprints. And with that, and you have to also work on trying to detect in order to create a solution to get undetected. And from our current understanding, if we mask a specific browser parameters that Multilogin is already providing, it's close to impossible.
And for those of you who are still with us, first of all, great job. You're already getting some valuable information. There is more bonuses for you coming up soon, even though we are getting towards the end of the interview, but there is a special bonus that Stan will also mention soon. And we're also going to show you a live demo of how all of this actually works. Okay, so let's move on. Now, we've pretty much answered this once or twice, but let me know if you have any more insights here. What best practices can you recommend to run multiple stealth accounts without getting those bans or accounts linking together and all of that?
Yeah, so we've basically covered most of them. One thing I would like to add is warm up your browser profile before you go ahead and create an account. And what I mean by this is that you open a browser profile, go to eBay or Amazon website, crawl the website a bit. Let's say click on one product, put it to cart, search something, and then just close this browser profile and wait a handful of 1 to 3 days. Wait this period, open this browser profile, and go ahead and register an account. This is a very good hygiene practice for warming up your account. And the reason why it works is because websites utilize a couple of algorithms which kind of they put higher trust if the account registration comes from a user that they have spotted before. And the way they do that is just by placing cookies inside your browser. And they will place cookie inside your browser profile. And when you come back, eBay and Amazon will think, well, this user has existed before, hence we will increase the trust score for this user. Okay. This is something that I would highly recommend to do. This can really, really change the game if you have your accounts getting blocked.
So show some human behavior, show that you're a real human being and not some bot that's creating multiple accounts, that's getting all these IP addresses, stealth accounts, whatever. It's good. It's not good enough. We still need to show the algorithms that we are a human being. We're browsing around their websites. We're adding things to our carts. And once again, we're not just automated bots creating accounts every other minute. Okay. What other use cases, Stan, are there for creating multiple stealth accounts if we haven't mentioned at least the better part of it?
One thing I've talked about is actually SEO. This is a very interesting case where you actually create multiple browser profiles to go ahead in these when going ahead and opening browser profiles and then searching your product in the search, and as a result, finding that product, clicking on that product, doing some activity on that product, and as a result, your product can go higher in the search rankings.
Okay, very interesting. And our next question, and this is actually a very important question that a lot of people want to know, especially the people who have been listening up until now and gathered all of this valuable information. How much is this going to put me back? I want to create my stealth accounts. I want to have multiple stores. I want to have multiple buyer accounts. Before we get to the demo and show how it's done, how much is this going to set me back? What are the prices? What are the costs of Multilogin?
Multilogin price starts from 99 euros per month, and it scales down based on the amount of browser profiles or accounts you can hold. So if the solo plan itself, it contains 100 browser profiles, which means you can manage a total of 100 accounts for this subscription. If you go ahead and commit for the solo plan that includes these 100 browser profiles, and you have 100 stealth accounts, it basically means that you're paying around €1 per account. It scales a bit significantly as you increase the amount of browser profiles. So the next tier is the team plan, which costs €199, and then scale, which costs €399, includes 1,000 browser profiles, and then after that it's custom pricing.
For anyone who's listening, if these prices sound a lot to you, it's once you're scaling, it's really nothing. And I can tell you this from experience, even starting from the first one at €20 a month, and we didn't even talk about the bonus yet, but even starting at €20 a month, getting 100 browser profiles, meaning I can have another 100 stores. I would even pay €20 a month for just having one more store, and that is because from 1 to 2 sales, you're making back those €20. And then what is that for having a whole store or another 100 stores? And once you start to scale, 20 to 100 to €300 is really, really nothing. And I value money. I don't think it's, it grows on trees. But when you're scaling, these prices that you just mentioned are really nothing. But please go ahead and continue.
Yeah, and for those who are listening, I would like to give you a good discount. You can actually use a promo code below. It will be provided in the description below this video, and it will grant you a 50% off your second purchase.
Okay, and there you go. And so for anyone who's listening until now, you just earned your bonus. We're going to leave a promo link. We're going to leave a promo code right under this video in the video description. Use that, get your discount, and hey, make more profit. Try it out. See if it works for you. See if you like having multiple accounts and making more profit. And yeah, make your decision from there. Stan,
cool.
Is it easy to start creating multiple undetectable stealth accounts?
Super easy. Multilogin kind of like automates everything for you and does it outside of the box. And without me talking, how about if I show how to do it?
Let's do it.
So this is how a Multilogin interface works. As soon as you get your subscription plan, you're able to create browser profiles. And to create a browser profile where you will create the stealth account, you will just need to navigate to create new. And here you can create a browser profile. Now, it's so easy as you would just need to add a name and then add it to a specific folder if you need, and click create. But before we go, let's just go over a couple of settings. Now here, you can choose an operating system. Operating system basically means what operating system you're showing to that website. We recommend you use the same operating system where you are working. So if it's Windows, you create Windows browser profile. If you have Mac OS devices, if you have Apple products, then you create Mac OS browser profiles. There's different browsers. We have StealthFox browser and Mimic browser. StealthFox browser shows to the website that you're using Firefox. Mimic shows to the website that you're using Chrome. We recommend Mimic for eBay and Amazon accounts. The next setting is actually edit proxy settings. And whenever you get a specific proxy, you buy a proxy, then you can just place the proxy right here.
Are there any proxy sites that you recommend? By the way, guys, these are two different things. So one, we're creating a browser profile on Multilogin, and two, we're connecting the proxy to it, okay, the stealth IP address, if you will, and we're adding it to that browser profile.
Right. So yes, we have a proxy demonstration right here. Actually, we do have a list of proxies that we recommend. You can go to multilogin.com/proxy where we list our recommendations. And this link will also be in the description of this video.
Should go without saying, but of course, high quality proxies, right?
Yes, exactly. Now this proxy is just for demonstration purposes. We've added the proxy right here, and we can check if the proxy is working, and we can see that the proxy has passed, and we can use it, and we can see that the country is actually Greece and the time zone is Athens. So we can create a profile. Before, I'm going to check if I will put it in the group, and we can create a profile. So we have this profile right here created, and instead of using this one, I have a couple of browser profiles created right here, and I will launch them as well. They also have different IP addresses, different proxies assigned to them.
So here we've got 4 different browsers, 4 different proxies, which means we have 4 different computers that's actually running under the same computer without the lag, without the latency of connecting to remote desktop connections.
Absolutely, correct. So right now we have 2 browser profiles, and both of these browser profiles are showing the IP address that belongs that belongs to United States. So it's a US IP address. And the thing is that it not only has unique IP addresses per browser profile, it also shows browser parameters that are different between each other. So it's essentially, this is a different computer, and this is a totally distinct computer from this browser profile.
They all have their different browser fingerprints. They're
Yes.
all they all give legit information. And what we did up until now was we simply signed up for Multilogin. We created our browser profiles. We added our proxies, which you can find at Multilogin's website. They have some recommended proxies there that you can use. Add that proxy to your browser profile. Click on Start on the right side to start that browser profile, and that will open up the browser. And what you do after that, once you see that the information is really correct, that it's not using your own local IP address, which you can see by simply going to what is my IP. So what we're seeing here are two different browsers. So that means that on both of these browsers, I can log into ebay.com right now, create two separate accounts, and they are simply not going to be linked together.
And actually, when you go to ebay.com, you can connect to ebay.com. You can also then close the browser profile. And whenever you launch it again, you can get access to your Amazon account immediately, because cookies and session data will be saved.
So one of the biggest differences that I'm noticing here from the way that I'm used to working is that there is no long distance remote desktop connection here. It's not laggy. It's not working slow. You don't get disconnected in the middle of your work. And everyone knows that sluggish work, it's no fun working with a computer that's not really moving and that's freezing up all the time. And this is what we're getting from remote desktops, where we're using those software, those types of software to connect to our long distance computers or to our proxy connections, which hopefully the marketplace will not be able to detect because we are using remote desktop connection, and they know that. Okay, yeah, so I'm seeing some significant differences here. And once again, for anyone who is taking interest, use that promo code right below this video, get your discount, try it out, see if you like it, and continue from there. Stan, before we wrap this up, we went over all of the important things. Is there anything that you would like to add?
Well, I think we've talked about most of the important aspects of running stealth accounts using Multilogin. I do want to point out that don't forget to experiment. Like if you're really serious about running multiple stealth accounts, one thing I highly recommend is that you really understand browser fingerprinting. What is it and how it works, at least to a specific extent. I invite you to come to our YouTube channel and check what content we have over there, and just educate yourself what is browser fingerprinting, because it can help you in the long run. If you have any issues, then you can effectively troubleshoot these like issues or bans that you have. Hopefully you will not have any bans and restrictions, but these things can happen. And if you have the technical acumen to perform this analysis, then it can go a really long way. Don't forget to experiment and educate yourself. This is very important in this industry.
I completely agree with you. That's why we have all of the content that we're sharing all the time in our blog page and our YouTube channel. The more knowledge that we have, the more information we have before we start something, the better that we'll be able to do it. The higher our success rate will be. And we're not trying to guess. We are experimenting, we are testing, but we're doing it with knowledge. Okay, correct. We're coming with knowledge, and we're not just diving in without knowing anything and hoping for the best. That is a formula for failure. So of course, upgrade your guys' knowledge. And there you go. There you have it. Multilogin is a great platform to run multiple browsers with multiple proxies and have multiple stealth accounts the right way, the legit way, without any slowdowns, without any interruptions. Stan, I thank you for joining us for this interview. I hope that you guys found it informational. And once again, do not forget to stay updated on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/AutoDS. Go to our blog page at autods.com/blog. Check out Multilogin's website. Learn about stealth accounts. Learn how to do it the right way, and learn about anything and everything else, all regarding e-commerce and dropshipping. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so yet. Do the same for Multilogin. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Stan, and bye-bye.